Hi, it's James and Watts. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. So it's been a while since I've recorded. We're in a new year. I thought about making one of those everything I've knit in 2023 videos, but other creators have that covered and I'm too lazy. So let me speak up because I don't know. I guess I'm not any further than I normally am from the phone, but it's probably always helpful that I speak up a bit. Hopefully everyone can hear me okay. But I decided to switch up my recording. I wasn't really even planning on recording today. But once I got the idea to record, I just really wanted to record sitting in my bed, cozy, comfy, resting. It's winter, it's cold, so it felt right. I have no plans on what I'm going to talk about other than knitting stuff. So maybe this will be a quicker episode. Let's see. Let's start with what I'm wearing. I am wearing an upcoming design pattern of mine. Just went into testing yesterday. This is the super bulky basic drop sleeve sweater. I think the last time I recorded I was wearing the bulky basic drop sleeve sweater. These pattern names are a mouthful, but sometimes with basic simple stuff like this, I don't like to get so creative with the name. I just want to say exactly what it is. You know, it'll help if someone's searching for something simple. That's kind of the key word of the pattern, is that it's basic. It's drop sleeve sweater. Sometimes I want to say drop shoulder. To me, that's like the same thing. But yeah, this is knit out of Adria Feel Hypnotico. I don't think this is a super common yarn, certainly not stateside. I think it's a little bit more common here in Europe. But it is a almost half and half wool acrylic blend. It's on the more affordable side, and it's like self-striping, variegated, something in between. It changes colors pretty frequently. So this is going to be a part of a series of patterns, 4 if not 5 patterns of basic drop sleeve sweaters, just at different gauges. This is 2 stitches per inch. The bulky one is 3 stitches per inch, and I definitely want to do 4 and 5 stitches per inch. Once we get to 6 stitches per inch, that's where I'm like, do I want to even bother? Because that's pretty fine. I don't know if I've ever knit a sweater at that fine of a gauge. What is that? 24 stitches to 4 inches. So that's getting into like fingering weight sweater territory, but maybe. I at least want to go to 5 stitches per inch. So yeah, these will all be sold as separate patterns, or if someone wants to get the full collection discounted as like an ebook, as a bundle of patterns, which I've never done that on Ravelry, but I assume it's not too difficult to figure out and set it up that way. I think it's nice, if you like knitting such simple things, to just have access to a bunch of patterns so you can kind of choose your yarn first and then probably get a gauge that's similar enough to one of those in the collection and knit yourself a basic drop sleeve sweater. Yeah, that's in the pipeline. And the bulky version comes out in February. This one will come out in March. What else have I been knitting? I got into sock knitting a bit, which I've known how to knit socks. I have a sock pattern, but I've never been too much of a sock knitter myself. My friends have been knitting socks recently, so it made it seem fun and appealing to knit a sock myself. I'm very influenceable, actually. So I picked up this yarn at the Munich Knits Festival in Germany from Bylum Yarns. Bylum. They are a Hungarian brand based in Budapest that does these gradients, and I made up a pattern for these 2x2 rib the whole way. I thought, like, should I write this up into a pattern? And I don't know that I really want to. If there's like a ton of interest in this, I would actually be willing to write some simple instructions that maybe just go out in my newsletter or something. But I don't have any plans to write up a proper pattern and publish it on Ravelry. So let me know if you want to know my instructions. It would be for toe up 2x2 rib socks with 64 stitch count. That's the only stitch count I would do. It's ribbing, so it's super stretchy and sits quite narrow. But I already wore these a bunch and they've been through the wash once. I did just put them in the washing machine on a cold and gentle cycle and then air dried. But if there's something I'm not willing to do, it is hand wash my socks. I'm willing to hand wash a knit sweater, but not socks. They just need to get washed too frequently. However, this is kind of gross and sorry, but I wore these several times before I washed them. With the way that like I go through socks and like my days are structured and how I use clothes, a lot of times I'm only wearing an outfit for like half a day, and I go through like 2 pairs of socks a day because like I will often go to the gym most days, and whatever socks I wear to the gym get sweaty, so they're done. That's one-time use. So I might like for 3 or 4 days in a row be putting these on after the gym, after I've had a shower, for just the second half of the day. If you're disgusted by that, well, I'm not. And I'm curious, are we collectively wearing our wool socks more than once? I tend to wear my like cotton commercially made socks only once, unless I really only wore them for a few hours. Then I'll wear them again, whatever. Whatever, okay? I love these. I think the color is so beautiful. I love the 2x2 rib. I did bottom up so that, because it came in a set of 2 matching 50-gram balls, and I wanted to use all the yarn. So that's why I did bottom up. I used to be more of a top-down sock knitter. Not that I've ever been much of a sock knitter, but I've always done top-down. And I think I'm converted, not just for the sake of using as much of my yarn as possible, but just the knitting experience as a whole is more enjoyable to me. Bottom up, rather. I immediately, after finishing these, went to the Bylum website and I wanted to order like 2 or 3 more of their 50-gram sock pairs. But I don't think on their website, they have a ton of beautiful gradients. I don't think they have any listings for this exact dye method where each ball goes through the gradient multiple times within the skein. I think everything on their website they have gradients that are just like 2 colors all the way up to like 5 colors, but I think they go through the gradient 1 solid time in each ball. And that's beautiful too, but I really love the way it goes through several times, so you can like see all the colors, even if, you know, like only this much of the sock might be actually visible between like my shoes and my pants or whatever. So I looked on their Instagram and they mentioned, and they also were telling me at the festival, that this is like a new dye style for them. And I suppose it isn't incorporated onto their website yet, but I hope that they will. I'd actually love to visit Budapest. It is not very far from Zagreb, and I really want to go kind of soon, actually, maybe as a solo trip. And I believe they have a brick and mortar shop, so maybe I stop in and see if they have any dyed that I could shop in person. Or order some if they take any like pre-orders and would dye to order. So that socks, and these probably took me about a month because I was working on other things too. I mostly only worked on these out of the house, but I did go ahead and go to a department store. A lot of department stores here will have some small yarn selection, and I got this Regia 4-ply sock yarn. That's like a very standard brand here, and it's just this like barber poled, variegated, jewel toned yarn, very pretty. Also doing 2x2 rib, not that you can see it as much with this type of color, but I like that. Okay, I really have the urge to just talk about whatever pops into my head and whatever order it pops into my head, so there's not much of a narrative flow to this YouTube video, but I am wearing my new ring. I think I mentioned that I wanted to potentially get a ring. This is my new ring that I ordered from a jeweler based in Barcelona. I was actually hoping to meet the jeweler, see his studio, look at some of his pieces in person in Barcelona. So I had reached out to him before I went to Barcelona for teaching, and he just told me he doesn't do any in-person meetings or shopping, only online, which I understand. Like, if he's just not set up for that, then he's not set up for that, you know. I totally respect someone who does not like want people, strangers in their home. But I was really hoping to like see a few pieces in person, but I still really like them. So I waited till I knew I was going to be settled, not traveling for a while, and I ordered it online as a kind of a little Christmas present to myself. It's a silver ring with a little bit of gold accents, and then this fat aquamarine cabochon on top. And I've been wearing it every day since. Most days it's the only ring I'm wearing. Before, I was always wearing this pearl ring and this tanzanite ring. Both the pearl I got over a year ago here, and this I got a few years ago. I like to try to get myself like one piece of jewelry or a ring or a bracelet or something per year if I can. I really love jewelry and hope to continue building a collection. But yeah, since I got this, especially since it is such a statement piece, I'm often only wearing it. And maybe the next thing I need to look into getting would actually be a decent jewelry box. Just a small one would be totally suitable for me now because I don't have very much. But I'm just laying these like on random services and shelves. It's not good. Thankfully, I haven't lost anything yet, but it could happen. So yes, I have not recorded since I went to Munich. I was talking about how I bought this yarn from Munich at festival, and I was there. This is the first iteration of the Munich Knits Festival where I came to teach and lecture. So I did the same two workshops that I did in Barcelona on modular knitting and an intro to lace workshop, and both were really fun. I enjoyed my classes, I had good attendance, and then I did a lecture, which I did not do in Barcelona. So this is my first time giving a lecture, and it was all about yarn, and it was a 1-hour lecture, really diving into yarn construction. I believe I mentioned this upcoming talk before it happened on this channel, so I won't repeat myself too much. I may have even said that I would be willing to maybe make a video of me doing the talk, which is something I would still think about doing. I really love talking about yarn, and I got the sense that most of the people in the audience enjoyed hearing about it. So I did decide while I was at the festival walking around before giving the lecture, I sort of made a last minute decision to make the lecture more interactive for the listeners by buying a braid of wool fiber for spinning and then pulling bits of fluff out and handing them out to everyone who came to the door before the talk. And then in the talk, I had everyone get to do a little bit of hands-on spinning in their fingers, because a big part of what I talked about was the main two techniques of fiber preparation and spinning to create worsted yarns versus woolen yarns, which I'm a spinner, so it's something I know a lot about and I've always been very interested in. Speaking of spinning, I saw that I believe Andrea Mowry is the one who started the 100 Days of Spinning challenge, and it's mostly for it's for all spinning, but I think she's doing drop spindle, or like spindle spinning, not drop spindle spinning, but just spindle spinning in general, and encouraging other people to spin on their spindles. And I really got caught up in that for about a week, and I was doing so well, and now it's probably been 2 weeks since I did any spindle spinning, unfortunately. I should have grabbed it. Hold on. I think I can reach it from here. Well, okay. Sorry for probably just like sticking my ass into the frame, but since I bought that fiber for my talk and only used a fraction of it to hand out, I had this beautiful braid of fiber, and I did bring a drop spindle with me when I came to Croatia, even though I've never been much of a spindle spinner, but I knew I wasn't going to take my spinning wheel, which I do have a spinning wheel back home. And it was important to me, whether I spin or not, as a spinner and someone who loves to make yarn, that I at least have my spindle and have the option to do a little spinning. But in about a week or two of like spinning for 15 minutes a day, I got a nice little bit of yarn going here. And this is a spindle from Spin City, UK. I bought at Edinburgh Yarn Festival, which I attended in like 2017, maybe, just as a guest, as someone. I really just came to shop. I actually only attended for one day and just went to the marketplace. I didn't go to any events or classes. I was there with my mom, who is not so much a knitter. I did teach my mom to knit, but she's not into it in the way I am. And she was mostly just there to enjoy Edinburgh with me. So we were out doing tourist stuff other than the half a day I spent shopping. I don't believe they do the Edinburgh Yarn Festival anymore, which I'm sure it's a tremendous amount of work to put on a yarn festival, so I don't blame anyone for not wanting to do it. But it was like fun and successful seeming to me when it was happening. It was like getting popular. But this spindle is cute. It was not too expensive. It's like made out of like resin with like glitter and pressed flowers. The resin has yellowed over the years, which I'm not aware of any like clear resin that doesn't yellow. I think they all do. And the only thing is that the glue attaching this is called the whorl, to the spindle has come loose. Like, you don't want this to be sliding around the place, so maybe I'll re-glue that at some point. And then of course, in my 1 week of being like, oh my god, I love spinning, I'm spinning again, I like had to order a new spindle, and I found this one made in Slovakia on Etsy and ordered it. Oh, which by the way, my ring is also from Etsy, and oh my god, I cannot remember the exact name of the jeweler and the order of his names. So I'd be better off putting a link to his work in my video description. Hopefully I remember to do that. If not, please comment and ask for it. Yeah, maybe you find something you like if you're into fine jewelry. But I ordered this spindle from Etsy from Slovakia. It's very beautiful. I love the look of it. I would say like this type of like classic woodwork appeals to me more at this stage in my taste for visual and aesthetic stuff than this, though I do think this is very cute. However, I did not find this pleasant to spin on. It's just, I wanted to spin kind of consistent between these two spindles, and it's very difficult because this spindle is lighter, which if you're using a drop spindle, the weight of the spindle is a huge factor for just the weight of the yarn that you're going to spin, and like what you can spin thicker or thinner on a heavier or lighter spindle, but a certain weight of spindle will lend itself to a certain thickness of yarn. So the weight felt different, and then also the fact that the whorl is so minimal rather than like a big disc whorl. It doesn't spin for very long. It's easy to get it to spin really fast, but then it very quickly runs out of momentum, or whatever you would call that in physics. What is that? Centripetal force? I don't know. I'm not a scientist, okay? Don't ask me. Though I did love physics in high school, and I was good at it. It's like really the only science class I took in high school that I liked. And it stopped spinning quickly, and then very, like, it's because it's so light, I guess, I don't even feel it or notice it in my hands that it starts spinning the opposite direction as like within a few seconds of flicking it in one direction. So that's just annoying. I found it much easier to spin on this. Will I continue spinning this project? I don't know. As of now, it's looking grim. I did, like, just in general, I've been like picking up a lot of like, I don't want to say hobbies, but habits rather. So I started playing violin. I started practicing violin again almost every day, often for more than half an hour, which after almost not playing at all for over a year, that's pretty good. And I'm always happy that I feel like my skills as someone who has a master's degree in violin come back quickly when I start playing again. So I've been playing some Bach. I have a whole movement that I've never learned before, totally memorized now, and I would love to find somewhere to perform it. Really, like, I should play it for my YouTube at the end of one of these videos, but maybe not today. I don't know if I'm feeling it today. That's spinning. Let me take a sip of my Monster. Blue one today. I finished my upcoming modular design. Ooh, I need to settle on a name for this. I've been thinking of calling it the Pillar Pullover. I love alliterative names such as that. And the only thing is, when I wrote the pattern, I kept calling these blocks columns. And if I'm going to call the pattern pillar, then I should go back into the pattern instruction and refer to these as pillars rather than columns. But anyway, this is my simplest modular design to date, and it is my first time making a proper front and a back. I've always made my modular designs. They're always simple box tops, but I've always made them reversible, so no distinguishable front and back, which is intentional so that you can choose which way you like to wear it. Often, when you're using something like Noro, it's a bit unpredictable, and you may have one side that you like better than the other, and you won't know until it's done. However, it's also nice to have something, like, I don't love to have something that scoops in the back. Sometimes you want that intentionally as like a design feature, but that is not why I was doing that on my other modular tops. I was doing it just to make them reversible. So it's nice to have a fitted neck, and I'm also really into high and tight necks right now, which I've always been into that, but I would say for a while now, my designs have been, I've been letting my collars get more and more relaxed. And then I bought at a thrift store the other day a sweater that just has a collar that's so tight I can barely get over my head. And I love the way it sits on me, and I've thought, like, okay, I need to start going back to tight collars. One of the reasons I got away from tight collars in my designs is that there's always a risk if you're making a really fitted collar in the smaller sizes that knitters won't be able to get it over their head. So you always have to put a lot in the instructions about like really keeping your stuff loose, or modifying if you need to, like pick up more stitches than what the pattern calls for. That's always a like doable fix. So anyway, this, whatever it's going to be called, Pillar Pullover, that is silly. Maybe I don't call it that. It's like hard to say. Anyway, it's very simple. It's my simplest modular design. It's just rectangles. It's just, if you can knit a stockinette stitch scarf, you can knit this pullover, this tee. The thing that's really exciting about this, and that I cannot wait to see knitters do, I also want to do a second sample myself. I have yarn coming. I wish I had it to show, but I'll tell you what it is. But because it's just simple rectangles, and you knit, they're all knit bottom up, so you knit the first one here, and then you pick up and knit stitches along the edge, and then cast on at the bottom here, and then you knit the second pillar vertically as well, while you do little decreases. Every time you come to one of these picked up stitches from the start, you decrease them together, and that pulls together these rectangles as you knit. The point of this technique is that you can create these different blocks in different colors without having to do any seaming at the end. However, you do have a separate front panel and back panel that have to be seamed together at the shoulders and at the sides. But as for the 5 pillars that make up each panel, they are attached seamlessly as you knit. Super, super simple. What I'm thinking with this, oh, let me finish my other thought. What you can do on this is just by changing colors as if you were knitting big stripes, you can make this so colorful and so scrappy, and you can do a really large format checkerboard design on this just by striping, which like there are plenty of checkerboard garment patterns out there, but like either you have like small checkerboards, which people usually do with stranded colorwork knitting, such as my best check, one of my beanie patterns, or if someone does do large checkerboard designs, they usually use intarsia, which I don't mind intarsia, but it's not my favorite thing to do. It like takes up a lot of space. It's not very travel friendly. It gets tangled up. It's a lot of yarn to manage. So this is a very simple way to get a big checkerboard, and this will go into testing next week. I've never done this before, but I'm highly considering making this an open test call and just letting everyone know that like everyone who signs up on the Google form to test knit will be invited to the test knit and receive the pattern. In general, with my test knits, always, I am chill and it's a relaxed environment. Like, I am relying on people who are volunteering to knit these patterns, so I have no expectations of people to like finish. Like, they don't owe me anything. I always ask that people like sign up only if they think that they're gonna be able to finish, but I always know inevitably like life will get in the way, or maybe you knit half of your sweater and realize you just don't like the pattern or something, and that's okay, right? So I'm always okay with not everyone finishing, and I always have enough people sign up and finish to get a good idea that the pattern is working as it should, and have a few examples to show on release. But I think it would be fun to invite everyone to participate as an open test knitting call, and also to be totally like upfront with people that I don't actually care if they finish. And like if they want to just use this as one of the rare chances to get one of my patterns for free, then by all means. Like, maybe they've been wondering about this technique and they want to see if they like it or not, and they want to see how it works, then this can be an entry point by signing up. So if you're interested, keep an eye on my Instagram stories. That's usually where I announce this kind of thing. And now that I've put it out here on YouTube, I don't think there's any going back. I believe that's what I'll do, which is exciting. I hope people take advantage. Yeah. But I am going to encourage test knitters and people who buy the pattern when it comes out to try the checkerboard technique and to try using scrap yarns. And like, I always use Noro yarns for my modular designs just because I love using them and they do the work for you of changing colors. But people have knit my modular designs in solid colors where you just get a little bit of movement from the lines dividing the panels, which is very interesting. People will do a solid color for each panel. But yeah, I'm excited to see all sorts. I think you can really get creative with the color on this. So I've ordered yarn for a second sample. I did order Noro, a new base that I just saw is recent, called Tasogare. And they have a colorway that's like, it's color changing between a few shades of like brown, gray, and black. And that's really been like my wardrobe the past year. Like my favorite things to wear have been neutral earth tones. I'm wearing so much brown these days. So it's colors that are really appealing to me. And then I think you could do, for example, like a Noro color changing yarn for one color, and then checkerboard with a different colorway of a Noro color changing yarn, and have like a very trippy psychedelic double colorway color changing checkerboard going on. Or you could take a solid color and checkerboard with a color changing yarn or 2 solid colors or whatever. But what I've decided to do is have this brown color changing yarn checkerboarded with a black mohair, which I really hope it works. I hope it looks good and I'm happy with it. The main concern, and I'll have to see when I get the yarn, is that I want to make sure I can get the same gauge with my mohair that I get with my Noro. That's important. Like, I could always change needles when I change yarns, but I prefer not to. But certainly, if you're picking 2 similar weight yarns, you should be able to use the same needle, I would think. So yeah, this is coming also in March. This comes in March and this comes in March. I don't normally have 2 pattern releases in 1 month, but this tends to be the time of year when the new year hits that I am at my greatest output. I'm working the most, I feel the most creative, and I like to have things consistently getting released through the summer. And then I tend to slow down towards the end of summer and into fall and beginning of winter. So this is done. Maybe I'll be wearing it next time I record an episode. We'll see. Pixel tweed pullover. I don't know if I've worn this on camera yet or not, but I've definitely shown it several times on YouTube. This giant, beautiful sweater knit in Moondrake yarn. I think it's the base Soft DK. Sounds right to me. This comes out in like a week, maybe next Friday. Yeah, I think so. I need to photograph this weekend, take some nice film photos, but it is a mosaic stitch or like slip stitch pattern. It's all knit flat and seamed, so it is a lot of work, but it's not particularly difficult. Just a lot of hours and a fair amount of yarn as well, because it is a very like dense, cushy fabric. It's kind of a smaller test, and I don't think everyone's going to be finishing. It was a long test. I understood with this one that people would need a lot of time, so I believe this was like 3 months or something. But the few versions I have seen getting finished are looking very beautiful. So I'm excited about that. And this is the same stitch pattern that the hat I released in November, the Pixel Tweed Beanie, uses the exact same stitch and colors, but the hat was knit in the round. It's a garter stitch based slip stitch pattern. So the hat is garter stitch in the round where you're purling every other row as well as slipping. And this, just because of the size of it, for me personally, we talked about this on another episode. It's my preference with a big piece like this, if it's garter stitch, that I knit it flat so that I can just knit on both sides and then seam at the end. I had mixed reception to that. I actually feel like I got more comments from people saying they would rather knit an entire sweater of garter stitch in the round than have to seam at the end, which, like, I don't know. If I knew that that was the judgment of the court of public opinion, then I might have been more likely to design this sweater in the round. It would still have some flat knitting portions, but I could have made it seamless. Too late. That's all right. If you hate knitting flat and seaming, oh well, not the pattern for you. No big deal. So with my drop sleeve sweaters, that's one thing I'm doing, is writing them all so that the body can be knit flat and seamed or knit in the round, just because of my love of self-striping and color changing yarns. If I'm using a self-striping yarn, I want to knit the whole body flat so that I don't have a huge discrepancy in the color and the size of the stripes for having to go from flat knitting to knitting in the round. So all of the sweaters that'll come out in the basic drop sleeve sweater series will be written with the option for flat and seamed or in the round, but the sleeves are in the round. The flat version is just about using color changing yarns and how the color plays on the body. It's not my intention to offer a pattern that can completely be knit flat and seamed Um, it's pretty uncommon that I find that I like see knitters who like don't know how to knit in the round, other than beginner knitters, right? But like people who are actively knitting sweaters and garments and are only looking for things that are knit flat and seamed. I think that used to be more common. I think there used to be more seamed patterns and flat knitting. But yeah, you have to know how to knit in the round to knit the sleeves. I mean, obviously I could write a flat sleeve that's seamed, but I don't think almost anyone would want it or knit it. So yeah, that's that. My bestie Anna got me these UGG mules that we saw in the mall together a couple of months ago, and I was like, oh my god, those look so comfortable. And she was immediately like, don't buy them. And I was like, okay, I won't. And then she got them for me for Christmas, and they're so cozy. I love a slipper mule like this. I've actually never been into house slippers. That's because I didn't have any UGG house slippers, and now that I do, I wear house slippers. I am a sock person. I did not grow up a sock person. I grew up a little nasty barefoot child, running around outside barefoot and in the house with black feet. But I don't know when I got into socks. I feel like not until I was an adult, but something switched in my head, and like I cannot stand to be without socks. I like want to be wearing socks at all times. I don't typically sleep in socks though, unless I'm freezing cold. But I wear my socks and my slippers. But I feel like that's gonna make these slippers last a really long time, because I think I would get kind of sweaty feet if I just put my bare dogs into those nice woolen slippers. So hopefully they last me a long time. But what else is new? I'm playing violin. I've mentioned many times that I love to draw and would love to get good at drawing and hone that craft. And it's something I pick up and drop all the time, but I did draw a little bit this week for the first time in a few months. We'll see if I do it again or not. I was talking about how I wanted to get on Pinterest for some reason. I heard someone talking about Pinterest a few months ago, and I was like, wow, people still use Pinterest. And then I was like, maybe I want to get on Pinterest. And I thought about it for a long time before I've had a Pinterest account since high school, but I just never used it. But my old account I was actually still logged in. I don't know how that works, but I did not even have to log in, and that's good because who knows what my login info is. But I started making boards on Pinterest. Maybe I shouldn't tell y'all this because maybe people want to see the boards, and at the moment I have my profile completely set to private, which I don't know, it feels like a personal space. So please respect my boundary and don't ask to see my Pinterest. However, I am thinking I should be posting my pattern photos that link to Ravelry on Pinterest, and maybe I will start doing that. I've never been a Pinterest content creator, but I see no reason why I shouldn't have linked photos on Pinterest. Spread the gospel of James and Watts designs, right? So I'm on Pinterest. Oh, I am reading the hell out of Wheel of Time. I'm totally engrossed in the series. Please comment and I don't know, just say anything. Let's talk about it. If you've read it, or if you want to read it, or if you've watched the show. The show is so different from the books, but that doesn't take away from the show for me. I'm not a purist prescriptivist with books and adaptations. I love the show, and I actually really want to rewatch it, and I'm forcing myself not to because I know the longer I wait to rewatch it, the more sweet it'll be and more enjoyable. But I am kind of ripping through the books, and while I was knitting the Noro that I showed, that's just stockinette, so it's really easy, and I don't need to look at my knitting while I'm knitting stockinette. So I realized that I could knit while I read, which I've always been into knitting and watching TV and stuff, but I've never been a knitter reader. So I started reading while I was knitting, and I was really enjoying that. And now I've moved on to a new design in lace, and I tried to do a row, and I just felt too insecure. And like, I think I probably could get into a rhythm where I like really didn't need to look too much, but I also just think it's much more likely that I'll make a mistake, which could like add 30 minutes to an hour sometimes to having to figure out, get everything right, or go back and fix a mistake in lace. So it's not worth it. And I decided to look into audiobooks, which I've never really been into audiobooks. But I signed up for the free trial on Audible where you get 1 credit, and I used that credit to get the 5th book of Wheel of Time, which I just started. And I would say it is still my preference to read the actual book because I often like to stop and reflect on what I just read because it's interesting and I want to think about it. Or I like lose attention and reread stuff. So I prefer to be able to do that. It's not so easy to do that on an audiobook, and it's quite easy to stop paying attention to an audiobook. So I don't love that I feel like my absorption and retention of what I am taking in through the audiobook is, do my legs look weird doing that? Whatever. Is not as good as if I'm reading the physical book. However, I am so eager to get through the series, and it's so many books that I am enjoying the audiobook nonetheless, and I'm going to keep using it. So I'm listening to the audiobook while I knit my lace. I also listened to it while I was at the gym yesterday, and I got through a lot of chapters that way. The only thing is, these books are not, like, I'm not exactly sure how Audible works, but I believe the way it is that you have like a streaming library of books that are just included if you are signed up for Audible, and then you have a library of tons of other audiobooks that you can like use credits to purchase, but with the like membership you get 1 credit per month. And I already know I'm gonna finish this book before I get to next month of my subscription, and I'd be willing to pay the $15 or $16 or whatever this subscription cost for Audible is, if it meant I could just go through the Wheel of Time series at my own pace. But I think as long as I don't have the next credit, like I didn't check all of the books, but I did check the next book, and it also requires a credit. It's not like included. And I don't know how it works, if you like how much it costs to just buy an extra credit, or if you have to buy the audiobook. I was looking at the prices of buying the audiobooks outright on Amazon, and they're really, really expensive, like $35 for 1 book. So that's not really something I'm considering if it costs that much. So I don't know, maybe I just only get to have 1 audiobook and then I'm done and have to go back to only reading. I am still reading the physical book like at night to wind down, but while I'm knitting, I'm using the audiobook. So if anyone has any suggestions, I know you can do audiobooks through your library. I do have a library card from Tallahassee. I don't know if it's still active or not. Maybe I could try that. Maybe, I don't know. I also don't know how that works or how in demand those audiobooks are. Maybe with the TV show, there might be a lot of people in line for those books, but I don't know, maybe not. Something to think about. Let me talk a little bit about upcoming designs. I am fully in work mode and feeling creative and engaged and trying to get ahead. I will be moving back to the United States probably in May. I'm not sure though, but that's most likely. And I don't know what my moving plan is or what it looks like. I'd like to end up in Chicago, but I've got a storage unit in Tallahassee. My car is in Chicago. My family's in Houston. One of my best friends in San Diego, I might want to go visit for a bit. So with that move in mind, I am wanting to really get ahead for the next few months of design, so that if I need to place my focus on moving, that I don't have work stress piled on top of that. So let's talk my birthday design, I think, is pretty fleshed out. I had one skein of this yarn called Cumbria from Pasquale Yarns, which is a brand I'm not super familiar with, but they sponsored one of my workshops for the Barcelona Knits Festival, and they gave me and all the participants one skein of Cumbria as like a little goodie bag take-home gift for the class. And I already had that, and it's a nice blend that I like and a nice weight. It's probably like around a fingering sport weight. And then it's like a cotton, I want to say it's like a cotton rayon, cotton viscose blend, which I like. And I did a swatch with that. And let me show you the swatch of this lace stitch. And decided that this is going to be the stitch that I use for my birthday design, and it's going to be a new mesh pattern. You'll know I love to work with mesh patterns, and this is going to be my first mesh pattern that is more oversized. Many of my mesh patterns are, okay, look at my holes is positive ease, but it's pretty fitted. And then pure mesh pullover and pure mesh tank top are both, pure mesh pullover is negative ease, pure mesh tank top is maybe like 0 to 4 inches positive ease, but fitted. Or it might even be -2 to +2 inches. I can't remember. It's not super tight, but it's certainly not loose. And then bat neck. Oh my God, that pattern name is the death of me. Boat neck batwing is oversized, actually. But this will be my most drapey, all over oversized, like oversized throughout. Like the batwing is a bit fitted on the waist, right? And it's not that oversized on the shoulders either, especially with the way it drapes. It tends to come in a little bit with most yarns. But this is going to be a drop sleeve mesh sweater that has a nice like 6 inches of positive ease through the body, through the chest, so even more around the waist, and oversized sleeves as well. I've never done a sleeve exactly like this. Like, it's going to end up still quite large at the bottom, and I hope I like it. If not, I'll end up redoing it and making it more fitted. But my idea is a sleeve that has some shaping, but still ends up pretty large. And then I want to do twisted ribbing and a fold over cuff. But this is they just gave everyone in my class, I think, a red skein, or at least I got a red skein. And then when they sponsored the class, they also told me if I ever wanted to work with them for a design to let them know, which is very kind of them. So I hit them up and said, hey, I'm ready to take you up on that offer. And I asked them to send me a few skeins of this yarn in black. And I have already started. I actually forced myself, after knitting a large swatch, to sit down and grade and write the entire pattern before I even received the yarn for the sample, which I don't always do that. I used to always do that, and then I've gotten lazy the last year, and I'm now ready to get back into working that way. But I have to say, it feels so good to know my pattern is already written before I've even knit it. And I love a black, this is going to be the top of the back, a black mesh lacy moment like this. So look forward to this pattern. And then I've also, my first garment pattern was Earth and Air, which is a 2-color brioche drop sleeve sweater with 1 strand of worsted weight yarn and 1 strand of lace weight mohair, knit and brioche. And I've always loved to play with weights and textures in fun ways like that. And I've always wanted to revisit that fabric in another design to potentially do like an Earth and Air raglan. And that was my thought, and I was swatching for it. I swatched with some La Bien-Aimée Winsley worsted, I think it's called, and some of their mohair that I had on hand. actually using smaller needles than I did for Earth and Air. The fabric is nice, but it's quite transparent, and just what tends to happen knitting brioche with these weights of yarns is that the worsted yarn takes on a really kind of uneven and textured look. And that's how my Earth and Air sample looks too. And there's something that I like about that, but it's not really what I want for this design. So I decided to scale it down, and I had picked up one skein from Biche Bouche of their fingering weight. It's quite a fine fingering weight wool. And then I had a skein of leftover mohair from Ritual Dyes, and I knit a small swatch of 2-color brioche like this. I don't know how well you can see this, hopefully well enough, but this is also quite delicate and like airy and translucent, but it just has a bit more of a cohesion to the surface and the texture of the fabric than the worsted weight yarn with the mohair, and I prefer this. So I went ahead and ordered a sweater's quantity from Biche Bouche, and very out of my usual colors that I go to, I ordered matching gray fingering weight with their gray mohair. It's medium gray. I don't think I've ever knit anything in gray, so that's new for me. And I also, it's a little bit of a missed opportunity. Like, part of 2-color brioche is that it's 2 colors and you can have fun with that. And I like the idea of contrasting colors between the wool and the mohair, but I just really wanted to do something that was like muted and cohesive and a single color. So that's what I'm doing. And I'm sure when the pattern comes out that people will have more fun with color than I've decided to. But these are the colors that I have ordered, and they're very beautiful. I've always wanted to work with Biche Bouche, and this is my first time actually getting to knit with them. And I love a rustic yarn like this. And I have to say, this is a very fine and beautiful mohair. I am swatching like I've never swatched before. This is like 88 stitches cast on in the round. So my idea is to do I probably won't call this Earth and Air because it's different yarn weights, different needle sizes, different gauge. We'll see, maybe I will, but I think I'll come up with a unique name for whatever this design becomes. But the idea as it is now is a top-down raglan and brioche with short sleeves and more on the fitted side. But it's such a small, it's like, you know, it's like a 1/2 inch of knitting, so I don't know how much you can see if I show this, but I am swatching really properly in the round with a lot of stitches because I learned from experience when I did Earth and Air, which is knit both flat and in the round, that my gauge differed a lot, especially in the small circumference part with the sleeves. So yeah, I don't usually swatch in the round for most of my other swatches for in the round knitting. Or if some patterns have both flat and in the round, sometimes I just swatch flat. But yeah, I want to be sure of this. I want to be really confident in the gauge, and then similarly to my new mesh, I would love to get this graded and written before I actually knit it. So yes, this looks like it could be the start of the sweater or a hat or a cowl or something, but no, this is just going to be a very large swatch. And yes, I'm excited about that. However, brioche is slow. It's so slow. I even felt like Earth and Air was slow, and it takes almost one of the like main selling points of Earth and Air that made it successful and popular and was part of my like thought into the design is that it takes so little yarn because of the yarn weights used and the needle size you use. I don't know how much yarn this is going to end up using, certainly a bit more, but what I wanted to say was that Earth and Air, even with its very low yardage and big needles, I remember feeling like I would never finish. It felt like so much knitting, and I already know just from knitting this much of a swatch, this felt like a ton of knitting and took a long time. So even this like fitted short sleeve sweater is gonna be a lot of work. So I'd like to get ahead on it, but luckily my new mesh is flying by. So hopefully I'm onto this before long. I do also have my second sample of the Noro to knit, but I've been talking about this for over a year about considering occasionally having a sample knitter that I hire to help me out with getting samples. And it might be time to do that. I do want to knit at least the first two like columns of the Noro myself to like be sure of gauge, but I see no reason why I couldn't send a started whip to a sample knitter and then finish it, right? So we'll see what I end up doing. Maybe I knit so quickly that I do it myself, but probably not. Probably I need to get some help with that. If you are an EU-based sample knitter, feel free to email me or just keep an eye on my stories. I'm sure I'll put out, if I decide to do that and want to go forward, I'll probably make a Google form that's like an application to be a sample knitter for me. And I'm new to that world. I don't know what the standard practices are, so I'll have to research and stuff. But sorry, I'm whispering again. Hopefully you can hear me. Anything else? Anything else? Going once, going twice. Going to the gym a lot. As always, enjoying that. Was there anything else I wanted to say about Munich? A lot of people who were like in my classes and stuff told me they watched my podcast. So hello. If we met in person and you took one of my classes, I hope you enjoyed it. And I hope you still are watching my YouTubes. But it was very sweet. And I feel very like heartwarmed when people tell me that they watch my YouTube channel, because it's so, as I love to say, it's like so boring and pointless, but like if you actually get entertainment from this, then it makes me feel very loved. And yeah, I wish, it's like been a while, so my memory's not that fresh of it, but I do have like some stitch markers that I got. God, I can't even tell you where these are from, but they were super cheap and really pretty. And I do have these from On Mi Way, who was super nice. And my friend Anna actually went with me and attended one day of the festival, which is really cool to get to show one of my non-knitting friends a piece of my world and my industry and my community. And she insisted on buying me some stitch markers. And she loves astronauts, so we instantly like landed on this one. But I haven't used the heart one. This one I have used, that's why it's off. But I have to say, this maker, when we bought the stitch markers, was like, oh, and you can also choose 2 of these from this little baggie for free or whatever. And she just had like a bag of mixed stitch markers. And that little free stitch marker that she let me pick I've been using it on every project. It is so beautiful. I should check if she sells those in a pack, because I love it. It's the most elegant thing. I have it on this swatch, this in the round swatch right now. So it's just like a little brassy braided, it's not even braided, it's just a twisted rope type of like brass looking stitch marker that I find so pretty and so elegant. So in general, most of like the nice notions that I have been gifts from knitting friends, and I like never think to invest in nice knitting tools and notions for myself other than needles, like, but that's like an essential tool. I have nice needles and nice yarn, but the other types of notions, I never like get nice or cute shit unless someone else gets it for me. But that, I'm ready for that to change. Like, I am wanting to start treating myself to artisanal, like cute, nice stuff that feels special. Like, I'm sure it's conveyed in the way I just talked about this stitch marker, but it literally is making me enjoy my knitting more because I'm like, oh my god, it's so pretty. It makes me think of Wheel of Time because it's like a little braided wheel and it looks like a little trinket that an Aes Sedai would have, okay? All right. I hope I haven't talked for too long. I feel like this should be a shorter episode, and I'm cool with that. I hope you're cool with that. And I can't think of anything else to add, so we'll just have to do this again at a later undisclosed date. Could be tomorrow, could be next year. Okay, love you. Bye.